All right, today we are diving into a really powerful parable. It takes one of the most famous symbols in the entire world and it completely flips it on its head. We're going to be looking at two very different crosses, and they're going to force us to ask some deeply uncomfortable questions about strength, weakness, and what it even means to be saved.
But before we get into the story itself, let's just stop and ask a question. Why do some ideas get, totally pushed to the sidelines of history? What makes a philosophy so dangerous that people label it heretical and try to stamp it out? This is the world of what you might call forbidden philosophy. So, to get our heads around these tricky concepts, we're going to use a simple two-step approach. First, we've got exposition. That's where we'll just break down what the ideas in the parable are actually saying. Then we move to investigation. That's where we'll dig into why these ideas have always been seen as so threatening. So, let's get started with the parable.
So, picture this. Our story starts on a hill. There's a carpenter, hammer and nails in hand, and he's standing in front of two crosses. And gathered below him is a crowd. The parable calls them the last man. These are people who want one thing above all else: comfort, safety, the easy way out.
This crowd, they huddle around that first cross and they're whispering, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall be safe. He suffered so we do not have to." Think about the values there for a second. Safety is number one. And there's this huge sense of relief that someone else took on the pain for them. You could say their salvation has been completely outsourced.
But the carpenter, he sees something totally different. He calls this the altar of slave morality. And if that phrase rings a bell, yeah, it's straight out of the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. The carpenter is basically saying that this whole worldview flips strength and weakness on their heads, calling pity a virtue just so people can hide from life's hard truths, what he calls the difficult sun. And then everything shifts. He turns to the second cross. And this thing, it's not fancy, it's not polished. It's raw, it's rugged, and honestly, it's terrifying. It's not promising you any comfort at all.
And the carpenter's explanation for this one is pretty startling. He says this cross isn't an altar you worship at. It's a ladder. It's a tool. And its whole point isn't to remember a sacrifice someone else made for you. It's for you to sacrifice yourself. Not for other people, but to kill off the old, weaker parts of who you are.
The crowd is just horrified. And their reaction? It gets right to the core of this whole conflict. See, they've built a whole world based on invented happiness, a life built around avoiding pain and seeking pleasure. So this call to embrace agony, to them, it sounds completely insane.
Okay, so this brings us right to the first part of our breakdown, exposition. Let's really dig into these two competing worldviews, the altar versus the ladder.
I mean, the contrast couldn't be more stark, right? On one side, you've got this external focus, find safety in the group, let someone else suffer for you. But on the other side, the focus is completely internal. You have to embrace the struggle yourself to overcome your own weaknesses and create your own meaning.
So let's make sure we're totally clear on this term, slave morality. The way the carpenter uses it, it's basically a psychological trick. If you can't be powerful, well, you just redefine good to mean things like being meek and humble and harmless. It's making a virtue out of a necessity.
And the opposite of that is the goal of the second cross, the Übermensch, or the overman. This is Nietzsche's big idea. And what's absolutely crucial to get here is that this isn't some kind of superhero. It's a state of being. It's about becoming strong enough to create your own purpose, forged in the fire of struggling against yourself.
This line from the carpenter, this is really the absolute core of the whole parable. He's setting up this huge contrast between passively being saved by someone else and the active, painful, personal process of saving yourself from yourself.
So that brings us to the second part of our analysis, the investigation. I mean, if this is all just a philosophy of self-improvement, why is it treated like it's so forbidden, so heretical?
It really boils down to this question. What is so threatening about a person taking total responsibility for their own spiritual and moral growth? I mean, why would any system want to stop that?
Well, the answer, as it often is, comes down to power. A philosophy of self-creation is a massive threat to any institution, religious, political, you name it, that gets its power from being the external authority. If you believe you hold the key to your own enlightenment, well then what do you need the gatekeepers for? The middleman suddenly becomes obsolete.
This declaration from the carpenter is just the ultimate statement of radical individualism. It completely throws out the need for an outside savior and says, no, I have the power of creation within myself. This isn't just a different opinion. It's a rejection of the entire structure of belief systems that are based on dependency.
And so we get to a really crucial point. That label, heresy, it's very often a political tool. It's not used to say something is untrue. It's used to mark an idea as dangerous, as something that could destabilize the way things are. It's a way to maintain control.
And all of this leads us to the final, powerful choice that the parable puts in front of us. It's not a choice between two different saviors. It's a choice between two completely different ways to live and to die.
This is the carpenter's final, absolute bombshell. He reframes the idea of crucifixion completely. It's not some historical event you're supposed to worship. No, it's an ongoing personal project. It's the deliberate, painful act of destroying your own inner weakness so that something stronger can finally be born.
And that's the ultimate question the parable leaves us with. Do we have to be like the carpenter? Do we have to drive nails into our own comfort in order to truly create ourselves? Is the agony of self-overcoming just the price you have to pay for a meaningful life? That's the challenge this forbidden philosophy leaves us all to think about.